It says, looks like my mic is unplugged. Can y'all hear me? It says it looks like my mic is unplugged. I'm trying to get these lights together. I need one over here. Why is this not working today? I don't know. Welcome to the Good Fight. I am so glad that you are here. I'm excited about this conversation. Always excited to have these conversations with you because you are helping me grow for sure. That's what's, oh, you on this side. Is that what we're doing? Oh, it's this one right here. Oh, child, what is this right here? Oh my goodness, what is happening today? Wait, maybe I need to just move this. I don't know. Are y'all gonna be okay with it? I'm just trying to get this stuff out the way. Again, so I should have, yeah. The good fight is I guess it's in transition, and we are talking about now this year. We started this year talking about how we can divest from the religious trappings, the societal trappings, the traditional trappings of what it means to be in relationship with Jesus. And that's what we were talking about. That's kind of how it started. And then in the process of talking about that, I realized that I was still centering Jesus as this God while talking about not needing to have Jesus as this God in the way that we have been taught. And so then I said, well, I need to take a step back and say, no, what we're looking for is how can we really live into being faithful? We call ourselves faithful. Does not matter to me to whom you are faithful. If your God has a name that is different from Jehovah, that is different from Jah, that is different from Yahweh, that is different from Allah, that is different from Buddha, that is different from the Dalai Lama, whoever it is that is your spiritual guide, your spiritual force that that gives you life, that feeds your soul. How do you live into that faith in a way that is more raw, more pure, more transparent, and allows you to be more vulnerable in your faithfulness? And so that's really kind of where how this is shaping, what this is shaping out to be. And then how do we figure out how to be true to ourselves, understanding that we want to be faith. I want to be a person of faith. So I want to hold on to that, but then also striving for and reaching for and stretching toward the idea, the notion, the possibility that this faith does not have to look like the faith of our childhood. It does not have to look like the faith of society. It does not have to look like the faith of my grandmama. It can be all mine. And even though I don't have to, I can give a defense for it, because there is a principle in the book that we call the Bible, that says we should always be ready to give a reason for why we believe what we believe. Why do you believe it? Not because it's like, why you believe it? No, it's like, what is it about this that makes you say yes to it? Like, tell me your story. I want to know your call story. How did you get here? And actually, that's really what faith is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be your own personal story about your own personal journey that led you to this place where you now believe that you have something within you that's bigger than you, that allows you to navigate this world in a way that is honorable to the soul, to every soul you encounter. How do I honor your soul? How do I honor your spirit? How do I embrace your body, the vessel that contains all of that beauty and all of that glory and all of that majesty? Like, how do I interact with you in a way that acknowledges that this is the space that I move in? And so that's what we're trying to live into. Like, how do we do that? And one of the ways that I believe that we can do that is to rethink, reframe, uh, our lens, our theological, our spiritual, our religious lens. And so that's what we've been doing since we got here this year. So thank you for joining us. My mom is, who knows what T is doing. She probably sleeping, but she might come through the door at any minute. I don't know. We'll see. I have realized that I really want her to, I really want to make sure that she has 100% control over all of the things that she can control, because there's so much now that she cannot control. And it seems like with each passing day, there's less and less that she has control over. So if she chooses not to go to church, if she chooses not to come to the good fight, if she chooses to sleep all day, those are choices well within her realm, well within her power. And I want her to exercise that power. So we'll see what she does. But if this is your first time joining us for the Good Fight, welcome, welcome, welcome into this space. Whether you are joining us live or you're joining us during some other part of your life's rhythm, you are so welcome in this space. But this is a space where we welcome people in the spirit of oneness, in the spirit of the Sawubona that says we are inextricably linked to each other because of our humanness. There's nothing we can do. Even if you hate me or your neighbor, whoever it is, you still cannot change the fact that we are linked. Even if you kill me, we'll forever be linked by the story that you killed me. So it's because of the human killing another human. Like, you cannot take away this connection that we have. And so the Sawubona is an invitation for us to consider, how can we better live into this oneness? How can we embrace it in a way that is authentic? Right? I'm not just saying, oh, in the spirit of oneness, I love you with the love of the Lord. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that every ounce of every fiber in my body says that when I am walking into a space, I recognize and I realize that I am walking into sacred space, because the people in this room are holy, because they are expressions of the divine. They are divine in their expressions. And so the Sawubona invites us to do that. And so we come not because the Sawubona doesn't mean that we agree on everything or we think the same way. Absolutely not. It's the exact opposite of that. Bring the whole of who you are into this space and let us coexist together in a way that both of us thrive in this space. So we welcome you. There are ways that you can engage with a good fight. One of the ways that you can engage is to find yourself reflected in the story. So whatever I'm talking about, or whatever anybody's talking about, because people will be showing up in a minute, then you, like, is this you? Are we talking about you? Phyllis Brown sent me, I think it was, I don't know if it was TikTok. Does she do TikTok? She sent me some clip I was looking at. It might have been TikTok. And as the woman was talking, I was like, oh, okay. She talking to the people that was on the good fight. She was, okay. And then the longer the clip ran, I was like, no, she talking to me. This is for me. Like, she is big. Like, no. This is not for your neighbor. This is for you. And I was like, oh, okay. So I had to watch it again so that I could, the part that I thought was for someone else, I needed to see it again so that I could absorb all of it. And so this is an opportunity for you to find yourself. Like, look, not, oh, let me go tell somebody else about them. But no, how are you reflected in what's being said? And is that reflection that you see one that you want to continue to promote, present to the world, or is it one that you think needs some fine tuning? And then if so, are you willing to do that work? And if so, what's going to be your first step? Like, so you have a whole lot of interrogation to do, just trying to figure out where you fit in this story. And then also another way that you can engage is to recognize that you don't, like, this is not your experience. It is not something that you are familiar with. It is not what you know. You really don't need to speak on it. Not only do you not need to speak on it, you can't speak on it because you're really just making noise because you have no idea. You have no clue. This is an opportunity for you to listen and receive the stories of others and receive them in the spirit in which they are given, right? The spirit of holiness, because somebody's sharing their story with you that is sacred. There are times when I'm sitting with somebody and I'm an absolutely great communicator. I'm a great facilitator. I am a great guide. And so if you want to talk, I'll give you the space and I will let you talk. And there are times when the talking leads to tears and there's this whole journey of the conversation that we are laughing. I'm talking about belly busting laughs, and then we are crying, and then we are serious, and then we are silent, like that kind of space. And so when a person is willing to allow me to be witness to that, and eyewitness to their story and their journey with all of its ups and downs and ins and outs and rounds and curves and dips and valleys and highs and mountains, I always walk away like, oh my goodness. And I know people use the word blessing. Very rarely do I consider something to be a blessing. I say, oh, that's a blessing. Very rarely. But in those cases, I feel like that is a blessing for someone to feel comfortable enough, trust me enough to share their story, one that I have no idea about. That's what another way that you can engage is to be in that posture of receiving these gifts with holy hands. And then a third way that you can engage is to walk through a door. So beyond this space, How does the conversation live with you? How do you continue to think about it? How does it continue to come up? Are you sharing it with other people? Are you making a critique about it? Are you feeling some kind of way when you walk away? Like, what's happening beyond this space, and how are you engaging with whatever that is? And if you circle back to me, that's fine, but it's not my expectation at all. And some of you, most of you do though, but some of you don't. And when I say, and that's a whole lot of you don't, because when I'm out in public and somebody's like, "Oh yeah, I saw you the other night," I'm like, "I didn't even know you were what?" And so some of you don't, but for those of you who do, I'm again always grateful to be on the journey. Then you can also comment in this space. You can comment, and then we can StreamYard allows us to put it up on the screen for us so that everybody can see it and engage with it if you want to. It's totally up to you. This is a very liberated space. Like, there are no requirements, there are no expectations, there's no judgment. It's just totally, you have full control of your body. So whatever you want to do is fine. These are just ways that you can. And then there's also the some people hit me up afterwards. Like, you'll send me, you'll DM me, like you'll send me personally. People can't see it on here, but you'll send me a message on Messenger, or you'll send me a text message, or you'll call me on the phone. So those are also ways that you can engage. So thank you again for being here. Last week we were talking about forgiveness, and I have not been able to let go of the topic. I was talking to someone the other day, and I was saying that the way that my spirit works with my God is that when there's something that I need to pay attention to, it feels like there's somebody poking me on my shoulder. Like, I mean, literally. I mean, I can feel it, like it's literal, like somebody's for real poking me on my shoulder. And if that's ever happened to you, if it continues to happen, it's annoying, and you're like, stop. And that's how I feel. Like, I'm talking to the spirit because there's no one literally. It just feels like it's literal. And I'm like, okay, clearly there's something else here. Let me chase it down. So that's what happened. We were talking about forgiveness last week in a way where we were liberating ourselves, saying that I ain't got to forgive you. Like, that should not be a requirement. And why do I have to do that? And who does that serve? And it doesn't benefit me. And I'm on a journey to say I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to teach my children to do it. You do not have to do that. And so that's kind of where we were with the conversation. You can go back and look at it. They're all on the Facebook feed. But this week, I started thinking about this when I was watching a crime show. I'm always watching crime shows or cooking shows. And now it's really more crime shows than cooking shows. But I was watching this show and it triggered me. So we talked about how do you find yourself in this story. So I'm watching the story of this white young woman, and it triggers my own story, and I had to sit with it for a minute. So the title on the flyer is The Apologetics of Forgiveness. I think so. The Apologetics of Forgiveness. So there's this whole practice, that we know that's called Christian apologetics. So when you think back to Origen, or the Apostle Paul in the Bible, when you think back to these kinds of characters, these kinds of figures in the world of religion and theology, anytime someone would critique or offer some criticism about what it is that they believed about their God, and in Paul's case, this was Jesus, then they would go on. I was getting ready to say this rant, but it's not a rant. They would engage in an argument. Like, this is a very well thought out, a very well articulated, and I don't mean the way they sound. I mean that they are really trying to make sure that they are thinking about the nuances of their argument, that they're thinking about all of the pieces, they have all of the premises that they have, like to reach their conclusion. Like, they're really strategic in how they are putting this argument together to defend what it is that they believe. And so the goal is, at the end of the day, for you to understand why I believe what I believe. The goal, the way that I understand it, is not so that you also understand it, not so much so that you also grab hold to it. Like, that's great if that happens, especially for those of us who are evangelical, right? Like, we want to bring people in to the faith. So that's great if that happens. But really the goal is for you to hear my argument, for you to hear the points that I am making. And when I get to my conclusion and wrap it all up, you say, oh, it makes perfect sense. For example, when T first came here, she sat in this big oversized chair that's in the I don't know, the great room, living room, den, whatever word you want to use for it. When she came the second time, she sat at the piano bench, on the piano bench. Now she's here. I don't know if it's the first, second, or third. I'm just saying this time that she has come, she's sitting like right outside this door. And so because she's sitting right outside this door, she's kind of blocking, like she's blocking when you open the door, like bam, there she is. And so it's not a very good place for her to sit, especially since I come in and out of this space all the time. This is my office. This is my studio. I do all of my work in this space. And then I've got to go in there if I want to play the piano, if I want to do something in the kitchen, if I want to see about her, like all of it. So like my life is just like this constant motion back and forth. And so I'm always trying to get around her because she's sitting in, and it's just like, oh. And so I said to her, I don't understand why you sit right. This is not a good place to sit. Like I need to come back. Like it's just not a good place to sit. And so I saw this look on her face, because I mean, I said, what is it? What is it that you help me understand? Why? So I'm calling forth the apologist in her. I want you to give me your argument. Tell me the reasons why. Come to the conclusion, draw the conclusion, come to the conclusion and make your case and make it plain. Help me understand. And so we were talking and I was like, I get it. I get it. Most of the activity in this house happens in the kitchen, not just because the kitchen is the place where you cook, but it's also the place where you wash your hands when you first walk in the door. It's also the place where the piano is. And so there's all this stuff happening. And so all of the action happens in the kitchen. So what she's done is she's found this one spot that I never even thought about sitting there. She's found this one spot that gives her a full, even if you are in the den, she can still see you, she can still hear you, she can still be in on everybody's conversation. She knows what's going on and she feels right there in the mix. She's all about it. I'm all about it. I'm a part of everything that's going on. So when I realized that, I was like, oh my goodness, that makes perfect sense. Of course you can sit there. Like whatever inconvenience it is for me, it is not a big deal because I get it. You want to feel like you are involved. You want to feel like you belong. You want to feel like you are seen. You want to feel like you are heard. You want to be engaged. I'm like, oh, of course you can sit there. And so that is what the apologetic is doing. The apologist, that's what he's doing. She's doing. They're doing. They're making sure that they make their case and they make it plain enough for you to get it. Again, you don't have to act on it, but we want you to get it, understand it. And so the Christian apologists were defending their faith so that the critics could understand better why they believe what they believe. And as I was watching this crime show, I realized that, just like with everything, we couch stuff in certain places. When we talk about the word worship, we say it should only be used in the reference to a deity, but that's not true. You can use the word for something else. I was singing this song. Somebody, Doug turned me on to this song by War and Treaty. And they're using all of these religious words to talk about each other. Like, I want to worship at your fountain. I want you to baptize me. Like, so like it's all of these words and people are like criticizing the songs. It's like, oh, you can only use those words about Jesus. Like, no, that's not true. The words are the words. How we apply them can be in any multiple number of a plethora of spaces of where these words can be applied. We've just conditioned people to believe you can only use them in one space. So I was kind of thinking that apologists were people who were defending their faith. It's like, no, you can be defending anything. And so when I started thinking about it in this way, after being triggered in my own body, listening to this story, it's a story of this young white woman named Kara, who was 15 years old when she was abducted. She was abducted from her friend's house. She was just like out watering the flowers. And a man came up and he started talking to him and he had some magazines. The story was very believable to her. I mean, I get it. And so she ended up getting abducted and she figured out how to escape. She escapes her attacker. She's back home with her parents. After she goes to the hospital and all of those things, she's back home with her parents and she begins to slip away. She begins to push them away. She begins to isolate herself. And as they're having the conversation with her, one of the things that she said was, she just really didn't want, at first she just really didn't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. But she also said this. She said, I didn't want to say anything that would hurt them. And I was like, what? Now you have been abducted, you have been raped and sexually assaulted, you have been traumatized for more than one day, you have been in the company alone with a killer. I mean, it goes on. The movie the movie, the documentary, whatever it is, it goes on. And so you learn all about this man. And so I'm like, now you are the one who is the target here. Because we teach the children when I do anti-bullying work, we don't call the person the victim who is being bullied. We call them the target. Because it's not like it's not like it was anything wrong with you. It's not like you did anything. It's not like you were weak. This person is a predator and they targeted you. And so you're the target. So she is the target. And she's afraid that her story might hurt her parents if they hear it. And I'm like, what? So it kind of sounded like I'm kind of apologizing for my story because of what it might do to you. So I'm just gonna keep it to myself because it might hurt you. And I was thinking, oh, bless her heart. But then her mother comes on, her mother, and her mother says, I didn't want to hear it. Yes, I had lots of dog moments. Like, she said she did not want to hear that her daughter had been she had been raped, that she had been assaulted. Like, she did not want to hear it. She's like, so what do you do with that? Like, what do you do with finding that out about your child? Like, what do you do knowing that you were not there, that you couldn't protect her and you should have been there? And her dad says, like, he was so guilty because he was out of town when it happened. I should have been here. It's my job to protect her. And so I said, oh, wait a minute. Wait, I think I'm starting to see this picture. The person who was targeted, who has the story of trauma, the trauma and the pain that's living in their bodies, is now in this posture of trying to protect the other person from their trauma, from their pain, because it will make the other person feel better. It'll make me feel less guilty if we don't talk about it. It'll make me feel more comfortable if we don't talk about it, because it's uncomfortable for me to think about that's what you went through. So me not sharing, me not telling it, me not opening up about it actually keeps you more happy. I'm in pain and I'm dealing with it, but you're the one that I'm worried about. And that triggered part of my own story, because I remember I don't remember every episode of violence in my home at the hands of my father talking about me. I ain't talking about my brother Derek. He has to tell his own story. Dwayne doesn't have a story to tell about violence in the home towards him. But this particular story, I don't think I'll ever forget it. It was after this one episode, and usually after it's over, like, it's a really awkward moment. Like, you're not really sure, like, is this some more? Is he done? Like, so you start learning how to kind of sense that I think this is the end. And then I began to walk away, because my practice was to go into the living room where there was a rocking chair that I believe belonged to my grandmother. And I would sit in that rocking chair and I would sing Precious Lord, Take My Hand, and I would cry. And it would just be me and my grandmama. That's it. So I'm trying to head to the rocking chair, and my dad says, sit in my lap. He tells me, come here. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So I really, really need to go to the other room, because I need to cry, because I never would cry in front of him, but I need to, like, I got to release this. And so that's what I really need. I really can't sit here, but am I going to say no? No. And so he says, come here. And then he wants me to sit on his lap. And so it's not usual. This is not the normal thing that happens. Not normal. This is not the routine thing that happens, because it should not be normalized. But he asked me, he said, why you make me a monster? Why you make me a monster? And he said it like he was waiting on me to give him an answer. He was waiting on me to explain to him why I do what I do to turn him into a monster. So this is like, your fault that this is happening. And I want you to explain yourself so that I can feel better. Because it's not me. I'm not a monster. You making me do this. And so when I began to think about it, I was like, oh my God. Let's think about this in the context of forgiveness. Let's think about this. So if I forgive you, especially because what we talked about last week was how quickly we forgive. The brother of Botham Jean in the courthouse forgiving his killer. We were talking about the Black man in the courthouse who had been he and his friend had been brutalized by this cop. And in the moment, before the apology is even out of the perpetrator's mouth fast enough, he's apologized. Like this immediate response, almost like a knee-jerk reaction, this rush to forgive. And we were asking the question, like, what is that about? So last week we were talking about it's performative. And today I'm like, no, it's apologetic, because we have been conditioned and to believe that it must have been something about us that caused this to happen. So I'm going to forgive you so that I can absolve you of it, because maybe if I hadn't done what it was, you wouldn't have done what you did. So it's not that you're a bad person. It's that maybe I need to change my behavior. And I said, well, Denise, what support do you have for that? Let's think about it. How many people do we know, whether they are male or female or gender nonconforming, who are sexually assaulted, who are raped, and they do not report it? One of the reasons that they do not report it is because the questions they're going to be asked all relate to them. Where were you? Were you at a bar? Were you drunk? What did you have on? Were you alone? What time was it? Like all of this in these interrogative questions that make them feel like, oh, so maybe if I had been with a friend, maybe if it had been lighter outside, maybe if I had had on different clothes, maybe if I had not had anything to drink, then this would not have happened to me. So it's my behavior that causes the problem. And so I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to hold it because it's gonna come back on me. And so I want to make sure that I'm keeping myself safe by keeping you from being uncomfortable, because it will be uncomfortable for you to admit that your son raped me. That's going to make you uncomfortable. And I don't need you to be uncomfortable. Especially in the world of race relations as it relates to white and Black people, one of the things that lives way down deep in my soul is the notion that if you keep white people happy, it will keep your body safe. Yeah, just do what they say. Listen to the story that we tell our young, not just the Black men, we tell all of our children this, that are Black, when it comes to the police. Like, do whatever they say. Don't worry about it. Don't say, look, smile, be nice, be compliment, like all of these things so that they can be all right with you, because you don't want them to get mad, because we need you to come home. We need you to perform in this way so that you can come. What's most important is that you come home. Pay attention to their badge, name, and number so that we can come home, we can file a complaint. But in that moment, perform to make sure that they are comfortable, because that will keep your body safe. That's what we do all the time, because that's what we've been conditioned to believe. We've been programmed to believe that. And so whatever trauma is happening to my body, it's only happening because I've done something to upset your happiness, your happiness equilibrium, some kind of way, whether it's just my entry into the room because you don't like melanated people, whether it's my look because you don't believe that people should be bald, whether it's my look because you don't think anybody should be thicker than a snicker, whether it's my look because I'm a woman and I'm supposed to be in my place somewhere in the kitchen, in the bedroom, whatever that is. If it makes me uncomfortable, now I've got to fix it so that I change my course of action to make sure that you're okay. And I feel like that's what the apology does. When we forgive it with that mindset, from that approach, then we're defending my need to forgive you, because I'm forgiving you because it really wasn't you. I gotta defend myself with with forgiveness. Like I'm offering up this forgiveness because it is my way of saying to you that to making my case of, hey, I'm not trying to make you uncomfortable. I'm not trying to make you feel any of this hurt. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. You know what? It's okay. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'll deal with it. And so when she says this, so she's talking, this is Kara talking. So she's talking, and she talks about how basically all those relationships she had, like with her mother, with her father, she had a boyfriend, all of those relationships were strained at that moment because of the awkwardness that her trauma caused the people that loved her the most. And so when we talk about forgiving people, what I'm offering up for consideration for you to critique, of course, is that what we're doing is we're giving them an opportunity. Forgiveness gives you an opportunity to be absolved from what you've done, because if we don't talk about it, we can act like it doesn't happen. That's what this world does. That's why we don't want to talk about race. If we don't talk about race, then we can act like it doesn't happen. If we keep lifting up these stories about, oh, well, look at Oprah. Oh, well, look, we gave you a president. Oh, well, look, you've got LeBron James making this money. So then race must not be an issue. That's because we're not talking about the stories that are impacting everyday life. We're not talking about that. And so because we're not talking about it, we can act like the same thing, the same reason why people live in these gated communities. You're thinking it's that because they want to protect themselves from us. It's like, no, we don't want to see your condition. We don't want to see your situation. We don't want to feel anything about it, because if I can't see it, it doesn't affect me. And if it doesn't affect me, I can go on about my business. And so we want to hide these things, these stories, so that we won't be held accountable, so we won't be made uncomfortable about it. Right? I don't want to be uncomfortable, and I definitely don't want you to make me uncomfortable. Hey, thanks for joining us. I don't want you to make me uncomfortable. And so when we forgive people, I feel like we are giving them an opportunity to hide the story, to walk away from the story, to pretend like the story doesn't exist, so that they can remain comfortable. And I know some people are like, yeah, well, some people are like, Denise, I don't think this world is about making white people comfortable. I don't believe that. I don't believe that's what people do. I want to show y'all this clip. Have y'all heard this movie called The American Society of Magical Negroes? Have you all heard of that? It's by Colby Libby. He's the director, writer, producer. I don't know if he's all of those things, but he's the one who wrote this. Yeah, and the name of it is the American Society of Magical Negroes. Magical Negro is an actual trope, a character that was created by white people that is a caricature of a Black person, and it sends the message that what Black people need to do all the time is make sure that you are keeping white people comfortable, because if keeping white people comfortable keeps you safe. Like, that is a for real trope. It's a for real made up character that many people have believed. Like, a lot of what we are influenced by is media, right? So this stuff is happening in the media, so we believe the media. I don't know why we believe the media. Like, people have these fantastical stories, and we're like, oh my goodness, did you hear this story? And so he takes this magical trope, and what he does is he produces this satire. He's like, I want to turn this trope on its head. I want to accept the fact that this is a real image that we have been offered all of our lives, and I want to do something different with it. So here is this film. I'm only going to show you the trailer. So he's done this whole film about trying to turn his attempt to turn this trope on its head, to say, yes, I know that's what you all are saying about Black people. Yes, I know that's how you are conditioning Black people, but this just does not work. So this is his attempt. But watch this trailer, see if you have a response to it, and think about it in the context of the apology that is issued as an apologetic. I'm issuing this apology because I'm trying to defend my need to protect myself. And the way I can protect myself is to let you go on about your business. I need you to go on, because if you go on and if you're okay, then I'm going to be okay. That's the conclusion. My argument, the apologetic, is about an argument. The argument that I make with myself is that if I forgive you and keep you comfortable, then I can just deal with all this pain and this trauma myself, and not have to worry about you being awkward, not have to worry about people when I walk in the room, everybody gets quiet. I don't have to worry about people talking behind my back because you're so uncomfortable. Oh my goodness, did you hear what happened to her? Like, I'm going to forgive you. And then everybody's going to say, oh, but she's okay. She forgave us. She's fine. Look, we see her every day. And then we deal with the trauma on our own, and it manifests in some other way that's usually unhealthy. And there are lots of ways that we can talk about that manifests, like drug addiction, sex addiction, food addiction, violence, like all of those things. Self-harm, cutting yourself. But here, watch this trailer. Let me see. I want to make sure I can do this. This is my first time doing this. Let's see if we can watch this trailer. I'm going to take
to the American Society of Magical Negroes.
I know you can feel their discomfort, Aaron. Watching you walk through a room full of white people was the most painful thing I've ever seen.
Excuse me. Sorry.
I don't want to take you to a job interview. There's a recruiting class starting right now, and we got to get you in it.
Welcome to the American Society of Magical Negroes.
I don't really understand.
It's easier to say. What's the most dangerous animal on the planet?
Shark.
White people, when they feel uncomfortable. White people feeling uncomfortable precedes a lot of bad stuff for us. That's why we fight white discomfort every day. Because the happier they are, the safer we are.
The name needs a little updating, maybe like magical black people, or I guess that doesn't have the same ring.
You ready?
Oh, wow.
Your first client is a Jason Munn. His morale is far too low.
Hey.
Hey.
Darn it, I was hoping there was a station right next to him.
Oh, is this one spoken for?
No?
Yeah, it's actually fun and weirdly relaxing. It's like being a secret agent with none of the danger.
Hey, I'm Lizzie.
Nice to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you.
She's great.
Yeah, she's cool.
You kidding? Come on, man. She's smart and funny. And...
I know what you were doing going on about her. You're trying to set us up.
No, that's not what I was doing.
You cannot have a relationship with Lizzie now. Because if you don't put Jason first, everyone's magic will fail.
I've always felt like it's my job to make white people feel comfortable, and here it literally is. But maybe it shouldn't be.
I got a great plan to ask her out, but I'm gonna need your help.
Do you think you could, like, work your magic?
Hey, are you talking about me?
Hey.
Oh my God. Wait, are you?
But I've traveled a long way.
Someone defied the society. Who was it?
You didn't let her go like I told you. If you interfere with her or your client, you could have your memory erased. You won't even remember she existed.
Even though we might never see each other again, I need you to know that what we had was real.
I'm curious to see how you gonna make it out of all this.
Okay, yeah. So that's the trailer for the film, and I'm not gonna say anything about the film. I'm not trying to argue for the film, but this idea of me internalizing all of what is happening to me so that you can remain comfortable, because my idea is that as long as you are comfortable, I am safe. And so even though he's willing to give up his own romantic interest so he can keep this white man comfortable, then that's what he's willing to do, because that is what my life is about. My life is about making you comfortable. And so if I have this traumatic experience that people say requires forgiveness, and I offer you that forgiveness, it makes you more comfortable. It makes you feel better about what has happened to me. Right? In this case, Kara, it happened to me. And now if she's expected to forgive the man who abducted her. She's expected to forgive the man who raped her. She's expected to forgive this person who's caused them all that trauma, because then people will say, well, look at her. She has let it go. She's not holding on into this anger. She's healing herself. She's going to keep moving. As a matter of fact, she even says herself, in this documentary, she says, when I think about my life now, I'm not quoting her. When I think about my life now, I realize that I would not even be here had that not happened to me. And I was like, what? It's like, my goodness, look how great my life turned out. And it's because this is a part of my story. And so this need to turn everything into a positive, this need to make everything be all right, this need to make everything fit into some kind of divine plan, this need for all of these theological calisthenics that we do to say, well, God must have been in there somewhere, because her dad says, this is what her dad says at some point, something about God protected her so that she wouldn't, because all the other children that this man abducted, they were killed. So she's the only one that wasn't killed. And so like God protected her so that she could escape and she could make it home. And I thought to myself, why wouldn't, if God is protecting her, why wouldn't God choose to protect her so that she wouldn't have gotten abducted? Like, why wouldn't God choose to protect her so she wouldn't have gotten raped? Why only after she's been raped multiple times does God say, oh my, I need to protect this child. Make sure she don't get killed. Let me go in there and get her. Like, it just, are we really paying attention to what we do? And are we able to offer up our own apologetic? Like, how do we defend this? And so we defend it by coming up with all these cliches, all this stuff that we say to make it fit. But here's my question for tonight. Wouldn't it serve us better as humans trying to live into a more realized world where we are treated as human, all of us, regardless of whatever identity they've given us, whatever that is they tell us that we are, that you don't have to accept and that you don't have to call yourself by. But I'm talking about these identities, because race is a construct, gender is a construct, like all of this is a construct, right? Marriage is a construct, religion is a construct, like all of these constructs. So that's what I mean by stuff that they've given us. Wouldn't it serve us better if we chose not to forgive? If the goal of forgiveness is to make sure that people feel better about the situation. Me as the forgiver, I'm going to feel better if I forgive this person, because in forgiving this person, I let go of, I release my anger, I release my pain, and I silence my story. Because I'm not going to talk about it anymore, because I'm healed from that. No need to talk about that anymore. I let that go. So now I'm not talking about the story anymore. And so since it does not come up, it does not create any discomfort for anybody else. So it's a win-win. You feel better and they feel better. But what if we decided that there's nothing wrong with us holding on to our stories? What if we said there's nothing wrong if I am targeted by somebody and my whole life is altered? The trajectory of my life has been altered, has been changed because somebody decided to violate me. Somebody decided to desecrate my body. What if I said, I'm going to tell the story. It's going to be a part of who I am. And I don't care who it makes uncomfortable, because that's not my goal. My goal is to live my life to the fullest. And part of my story is that this happened to me. Now, I'm not going to say, oh, woe is me, because something bad happened to me. Now I can't go on. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, I don't have to say, oh, look, it worked out for my good. Oh, look, what the devil meant for evil, God worked it out for my good. Like what you meant for bad. I don't have to do that. It is what it is. It happened to me. It should not have happened to me. No one should condone it. No one should try to make me feel bad. Don't try to victimize the victim because I was targeted by somebody. But don't try to make it go away either. And what if we decided that we're not going to make it go away, which would mean we would have to talk about it. And if we have to talk about it, then that means we cannot unring the bell. If you continue to hear stories, if we let everybody in this world tell us their story about sexual trauma, our ears will be ringing all day long. And that's what we don't want, right? Oh, no, I don't want to hear anymore. No. You need to hear this, because perhaps if you hear it, then we can come up with a plan. We can come up with a strategy that says, how do we work in this world in a different way? How do we live and love differently so that we don't have to hear these stories anymore? Because when these stories are just over here, over there, we'll say what? Oh yeah, there are just some bad actors in the world. But when you're hearing this story as often as we should be hearing it, because it's happening to people on a regular basis, and I'm just talking about the story of sexual assault and rape, but if we talk about racism, that's happening on a regular basis all day, every day. If we're talking about genderism, that's happening on a regular basis all day, every day. If we're talking about sexism, that's happening on a loop. And so if we stop forgiving and therefore silencing the stories, then that means we got to deal with them. That means we got to figure out what to do differently. Where is our God in this story about this rape? Where is our God? Let's contend with this question. Where was God when she was abducted? What do we do with that? What do we tell our child after she comes home and she asks the question, Mommy, Daddy, I was looking for you, but you weren't there. So I figured God would be, but where was God? What do you say? We don't say anything because we make up stuff. No, let's be real. What do you say? Well, you don't have anything to say because we haven't given ourselves those tools. We're not equipped to handle the question. We're not equipped, but we are equipped to say God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. Is God good all the time? I mean, have you read the Old Testament? Probably not, because what do? We say things like, no, we live in New Testament time. And so we just erase the whole Old Testament. We say, oh no, we live by grace. So like the other part, so if we don't talk about it, it didn't happen. Like all the times that God said, go in there and kill all the people. I mean, kill everybody. I want you to kill the children, the women, kill everybody and bring the stuff home. We're gonna just pretend like that didn't happen. See, that's what we do. And we have to stop. We have to face the realities of our situation. That's the only way that we're going to be able to affect change. And if we want to live into a world where we say that we are faithful, then if we're going to be faithful to whoever our God is, then just like we say about humans, we want you to bring your whole self into the room. We got to let God bring God's whole self in the room. And if we are divine images, if we are divine expressions of God, and we have the ability to cause harm, our parent doesn't. Wait, do you see God as parent? I don't know. That's your theology. Like, I don't know. But most of us, if we think about our relationship with our parents, we carry them like we're products of them, right? Like somebody's getting to know my mom more and more now that she's here, and so lately he's been saying, I see you and your mama. Like, because he had never met my mom, all he had was me. Right? But now that he's got both of us, he's like, oh my goodness. Like, yes, most of us have that story. Even my story with my dad. I'm like, I don't want to be like my daddy. I don't want to be violent. I don't want to be. And when you stop and think about it, what I have to contend with every day is out of the 3 children that he has, only one of them, a girl, a woman, I'm the one that's most like him. Go figure. How do you contend with that? You have to. I can't pretend like it doesn't happen. I can't say, well, I'm only going to take the good. I just decided to take all the good parts of my dad, and I don't have none of his bad parts. Yeah, I do. And I have to work with them. I have to navigate them. I have to manage them. I have to be cognizant of them. I have to know my body so I can feel what's going on, so I can know when to say, this is not going to end well. I got to go. Anytime you hear me say that, this is not going to end well, you need to let me walk out the door, because I'm telling you, this is not going. I'm not being funny. I'm not being cute. This is not no conversation starter. I'm out because I know my body and I have to manage that. And so if we're going to be more faithful, and if we're going to divest from these trappings, these societal and theological trappings, perhaps the forgiveness, the way that we're using forgiveness now, does not have a place in us trying to honor each other. Because if you're going to honor me, you got to honor the stories that I carry in my body. And if the forgiveness silences those stories, then I don't need to offer the forgiveness. I feel like there's somebody asking me, like, can you do anything with forgiveness? Denise, are you just all against forgiveness? I don't know. I think I have to think about that some more. There may be a place for forgiveness. I'm open to that, to considering that. All I'm saying is the way that we're using forgiveness right now does not help us. It does not serve us. Because it's silencing us, and it's continuing to perpetuate this trope of the magical Negro, only it can be applied to anybody who feels that they have to do this. That I gotta, because of my trauma, you're uncomfortable. So in order for you to be comfortable, I got to silence my trauma. That's one of the reasons why we are living in this world right now that we've been living in this whole time, where they don't want to talk about slavery. You don't want to, you know why you don't want to talk about reparations? The reparations is a legal term. If we talk about reparations for Black folks, then that means that the government, the country, this world will have to acknowledge the atrocities that happen to Black bodies, all members of the African diaspora, all members, African people, Black people, all members of the African diaspora, all of us. They would have to acknowledge it, and not only acknowledge it, but they would have to take ownership of it. And not only would they have to take ownership of it, they will have to take steps to repair it. That's what reparations are. You have to repair this relationship that you broke. So you have to stand before the world and say, we did this. We did it. And usually an apology is part of that because we want to do this reconciliation. And so the reason that the apology is used, okay, the apology, not forgiveness, but the apology says, hey, apology says, I'm sorry. Forgiveness is the response to the I'm sorry, right? Forgiveness is the response to the apology in this case. And say, well, no, we're not talking about forgiveness. We're talking about the apology. So the world would have to stand up and say that not only did we treat people's bodies inhumanely, starting with First Nation people, not just Black people, but First Nation people have gotten reparations. So that's why I'm talking about Black people. I'm not suggesting that Black people are the only ones who have been harmed, but we're the ones that still waiting on reparations, getting what we deserve, not what we're begging for or pleading for, but what we deserve. And so you have to say that out loud. You would have to apologize out loud. You would have to put together a plan of action to rectify your wrongs. All of that would have to be done very publicly. And you would have to sit in your discomfort knowing that you are in the bloodline of the people who, so many people want to say, well, my parents were enslaved. Hey, but was your grandmama, your granddaddy? Hey, let's talk about this. And then if you say, well, no, even if I trace all the way back, there were no slave owners in my family. Okay. I'm not going to give you a cookie for that, but okay. But you cannot say that you have not benefited from the system of enslavement because the entire world benefited from it. We were just talking about the EJI tidbit today, which talks about how they created the states of Alabama and Mississippi. The government gave the land to create the states of Alabama and Mississippi so that there would be more slave states. There would be legal slavery would be allowed in more slave states. Right? And so that changed the whole configuration of our country. For you to add 2 states, you added Alabama and Mississippi. And so you're benefiting from that. What was it I was watching? And I said, Smirnoff. It was a commercial that came on by Smirnoff. People say, Denise, can you just watch a commercial? No, I want to just watch the commercial, but here's what happens. Smirnoff, it says the greatest vodka in the world, something like that. The commercial says, I don't know. I don't drink Smirnoff. I don't know. But then it says 1864. And I said, if you started your company in 1864, then that means this is slave labor. That's what that is. 1864. That's what that is. So anybody related to the Smirnoff in any way, the business, you got stock, you got employees, you got bloodline to Smirnoff, then you benefited from the system of slavery. And so in order for us to have the conversation, then we have to own all of that. And so instead, we just want people to say, oh, no, that was a long time ago. It's not like that anymore. Let that go. We should just forget about it and move on. Why y'all still talking about this? And so I am against the forgiveness that allows us to use that as a way to silence the stories. I'd rather have an open conversation where we figure out how to hold people in space as they wrestle with their trauma. How do we figure out how to find them so that we can do like they did in the story of Job? They came from all over the country. I cannot figure out how they found out. Like, this is another one of these fantastical stories. Like, they came from they didn't have social media. They didn't have jets and private planes. So they came from all his friends. His friends heard about his trauma. And they came and they just sat with him. They didn't even make it. They didn't ask him no questions. He didn't have to share the story in that moment. He didn't have to do anything, but know that he was surrounded by people who love him, who were not afraid to sit in that pain with him. He cried, we crying. My friend made an announcement to me today, and I wasn't sure from the way she said it if we were happy. So I did not have any reaction at first. I said, wait, is this a good thing? Are we celebrating? She said, we celebrate. Okay. Ooh, let's celebrate. Because it's your story. So wherever you are in the story, I'm going to come and sit with you there. It's not about if I'm uncomfortable. It's not about if it's awkward for me. It's not about if I'm feeling guilty. It's not about me wishing I had been there, wishing I had taken the pain away from you. It's about me holding you in this moment. And I think forgiveness robs us of those kinds of relationships, of those kinds of raw conversations where I can open up and tell you about the things that I am holding, the things that are hurting me so bad, the things that I keep hidden because I cannot afford to tell just anybody because they might use it against me. They might go tell everybody. And so I'm holding all of this because I can't trust you with it, because all you really want me to do is just not talk about it because it's too much. It's too heavy. So what are we going to do with forgiveness? Last week we said forgiveness is performative. I just say it because I feel like I'm supposed to say it in public, but then in private I tell you I don't forgive him. So then so forgiveness as performance was last week, and now we're talking about forgiveness as a way to offer defense. We're really trying to protect ourselves, but it ends up defending the other person. Oh, I shouldn't have done these things that made you do this to me. So it's okay. Don't worry about it. It's okay. I forgive you. So we're trying to protect ourselves, and it offers a defense. That's what the apologetic message is I was trying to use today. So forgiveness, the apologetics of it. So far, I haven't figured out how the forgiveness works in a way that benefits us and moves us forward along this journey of being more vulnerable with each other in our faith. So my faithfulness says that I want to honor every aspect of your humanity, and that includes trauma. We cannot escape pain. We cannot escape trauma in this world. Why? Because we've designed it this way. This entire country was built on violence. And that's one of the reasons why people don't want to talk about the Old Testament. It's rooted in violence. It's all kind of violence. We know violence. We know violence. We teach violence. We perpetuate violence. We traffic in violence. I just said traffic, and I thought about that. My cousin and I were talking about sex trafficking, and she was concerned. She has a daughter who's in college, and she's concerned about what's going to happen with her because she doesn't talk to her as much, blah, blah, blah. Not blah, 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 but there's a lot more to the story. That's what I mean by blah, blah, blah. There's more to the story. And she says, because sex trafficking is a $1 billion industry, or 80 billion, some number she put on it. And I said, wait, what did you just say? How? If sex trafficking is something that's happening like on the periphery or underground or in the black market, shouldn't call it black market. I hate when people do that. But in this underground market, how do we know how much they're making off of it? That means somebody is well aware of the business of sex trafficking. Somebody's well aware of this violence, and they counting the money they're making off of it. That's what that means. If you can put a number on it, what else does it mean? So we can until we design a new system, as long as we got the one we're dealing with right now, because I believe it's possible to dismantle it in my lifetime. I mean, I'm working hard on it. But if this is the system that we're going to deal with, then pain and trauma is part of our life, not because God willed it, but because we designed it. We need to stop. Phyllis Brown says this all the time. Poor God get blamed for everything. Listen, it wasn't God's will for you to be raped. It wasn't God's will for your daddy to molest you when you were little. It was not God's will for your child to be murdered or for your baby to be killed at 3. That's not God's will. Stop saying it. God is using it to make you the best person that you can be. God, you ain't got no better plan than that. You ain't got no more power than that. I want a God that reminds us that I've given you everything that you need to live in harmony with each other. I've given you all the power. I've given you all the gifts. I've given you all the resources. I've given you all the personalities. I've given you all the talents. I've given you all the time. I've given you everything you need to get this right. It is not my fault that you ain't got it right yet. So how do we say, okay, pain and trauma, until we fix it, it's part of who we are. It's part of how this world operates. It's part of how we operate in the world. So how do we figure out how to stop silencing those stories so that we can pretend like this world is a good world? So we can pretend like this world is a great world. So we can pretend like this world is progressive. So that we can pretend like this world is colorblind. Oh my goodness. If we stop apologizing, if we stop forgiving people so that we can protect ourselves and keep them comfortable, which is how I was couching the apologetic, then we'll deal with some real issues. Then we can see each other face to face. We can talk. We can share more. We can be vulnerable. We can be transparent. We can get to know each other. And by knowing each other, then that's one of the reasons why we have a hard time relating to each other, because we see each other as strangers and we're scared of each other because we don't know each other, because we don't know our stories. All we know are these tropes, like the magical Negro. That's who you're looking for. You're looking for that person who that's what they live to do, make you happy. They don't exist. That's a made up character. This idea that there's not supposed to be any discomfort. I don't want my children to learn about racism because it's going to make them feel guilty. Okay. Guilty is a good emotion to experience. Let's learn how to navigate it. Let's learn how to manage it. Let's learn how to use it and turn it into fuel so we can use it as in a positive way as we dismantle these systems. That's what I'm asking you to consider. And I can't wait to hear the pushback. I feel like there's some, but I don't know. There may not be. I'll wait and see. I'll be right here. And I'll see you again on next week. We might still be talking about forgiveness. Just depends on this. Talk to you later. Bye. End stream.